Hello and welcome to Organic Blooms HQ. Today we're going to take you through making a wreath. Wendy is going to demonstrate, I'm going to talk you through it. So we're starting with a 10-inch mossed wreath base. All our moss is sustainably sourced from a licensed moss supplier. And we're going to start by cutting foliage so that we make little bundles up. Now, some of our customers have wreath kits that have the bundles already made up. So we're going to try and tell you what you do as well as we go along. So Wendy's got some spruce there, some blue spruce, which is really the backbone of our wreath. It kind of gives the body, it lasts ages, and it obviously looks very festive. She's got some rosemary there in the corner, some eucalyptus, some berried ivy. So mature ivy develops a berry as it gets older, and it's beautifully architectural, lovely in a wreath. We've also got some twigs as well, which are lovely to put through. They come out a bit further from the wreath and give a really lovely rustic feel. So the foliage is really important. If you're gathering your own, some of our kits obviously are provided with the foliage in. Some of them you've just got the bare bones and a bit of spruce, and you'll be gathering your own foliage. So it's all about looking for things that are interesting, that are evergreen, and that have smallish leaves. So Wendy's started her first bundle, and she's putting it on with the stems are on the wreath ring, but she's angled the actual foliage out slightly. That gives you a fuller wreath. Now, what I didn't tell you is to attach some string to the top of your wreath to start with. So you may have been supplied with a ball of twine. It might already be attached to your wreath if you've got the wreath kit, which has already been started for you. So the key thing is tie your twine onto the top of your wreath ring, and you'll use that ball of twine right round the wreath. You'll never cut it until the end. So you can see Wendy's taking that twine a couple of times round each bundle. That's all. You don't need to put it more than a couple of times around, or it will kind of it will constrict your foliage in too much. So Wendy went with her second bundle. She put in some eucalyptus, and now you can see that she's putting in some, are they birch or hazel? Birch catkins, and they're coming out a bit there on the side. A wreath base of about 10 inches normally needs maybe between 7 and 10 bundles. You can see how thick they are. Now Wendy's just put literally some spruce there. She's put 2 pieces of spruce at an angle, they fanned out, and now she's putting on top a lovely piece of ivy, berried ivy, a couple of pieces of berried ivy. She's trying to make sure that those ivy berries are hanging to the outside of the ring. They do look more attractive hanging towards the outside rather than the inside. You don't want to close up that hole in the middle of your wreath ring. Lovely bit of rosemary. So we're look at all the textures, colours. We're looking for layers and layers of interest. And you really, whatever you've got in your garden that's suitable, have a go. Viburnum tinus is out at the moment with a lovely white flower on it. That's really nice. Euonymus. So we're overlapping each bundle by half. So we're putting, you're kind of covering the previous bundle by half. You don't want to do it by more than that, or you'll have a vertical wreath. You won't ever progress. But you don't want to spread them out too much because it becomes quite sparse. Obviously, the width of your whole wreath will be dictated by the size of your bundles, how long your bundles are. So if you want a really ginormous wreath, you use longer bundles. Those who have already been provided with bundles, you're not making them up as you go. You're just literally popping the next one on and wrapping it round. And in those kits, your base is on a willow. You're on a willow ring. So you might want to consider putting your cone in as you go along, just like Wendy was putting in the branches, the twigs. You might want to place a cone into your bundle. So you've been provided with 3 cones, and you might want to put your cone into your bundle. The reason being is the willow base is a little bit harder to push wire through. It all will be revealed later on when you put your decorations on. So Wendy's showing you that now. So she's putting, so we provided you with a wired cone, but we're actually going to use it as if it's a twig, and we're going to pop it in. I would say every third bundle, pop a cone in. That's for the people who have the pre-made bundles on the willow bases. Hopefully I'm not confusing you too much. I mean, this would be appropriate in any, you can do it with any wreath base, but you will need to do it with your willow ones because it's hard to push through the willow base. The other base is a copper ring, and it's got a gap in it, so it's much easier. So we're going to do, are we doing a Blue Peter moment yet, Wendy? Or not? Are we going to? Yeah, so we're going to now swap for one we made earlier in true Blue Peter style and actually show you how to decorate. But one thing to say about the finishing those bundles off, you obviously will get back to the beginning and you will find the original piece of string that you tied round, and you basically cut the running bit of string that you've got and just tie the two pieces of string together on the back, and that will just finish that off so it doesn't all come apart. So once you've got a full wreath, you need to think about where your top, oh look, there you go, Wendy's just cutting off that piece of string where she joined. You need to think, you need to look round your wreath and think, where is there a flat piece? Is there a place where I'd prefer to have a bow? Is there an up or a down? You know, they're all individual, so you might find that you know immediately where your top is going to be. And that is where you put this ring. So Wendy, can you move it slightly more towards the camera? That's it, perfect. So Wendy is putting a wire. She's trying to find the edge either of the copper ring or the edge of the willow. And she is putting, we provided you with this wire, and she's putting it through both ends. So both ends of the wire are going through the edge of the copper ring or the piece of willow, and they're being twisted on themselves. This is quite a hard thing to describe, so hopefully you can see quite clearly what's being happening. And you don't want to put it right around your entire ring base. You just want to put it through that top piece of willow or piece of copper. Now that is where it's going to hang on the door. If you want your bow to be at the top, you would put your bow straight under that hanging loop. And if you, again, I'm going to tell, or you can put it on the bottom if you prefer, or you might not want a bow at all. It's completely your choice. So we've made you up a bow, most of you anyway, depending on who's watching this. And you basically push, if you've got the mossed copper ring, you'll be pushing your wire straight through, vertically through your wreath ring, and then the wire that comes out the back, you'll just push it round back through the base, and just to secure it, just to stop it scratching the back of the door and or hurting you when you pick up the wreath. If you've got a wreath ring that is made of willow, you may struggle again to push it through that tight willow ring, so you'll need to wrap the wire right round the base. Or if you've got a very sturdy piece of spruce, you could actually attach it to that, but it would be safer if your wire is long enough, pop it right round the base without pushing it too tight into the foliage. So some of you will have already put your cones in, but if you haven't, you could, this is where you kind of look at the materials you've got and think about where you want to put them on your wreath base. So you could even, some of you will have teasels as well, and you can use the teasels in the same way as the cones. You wire them, and the twigs, you wire your teasels and your cones in together, just like that. So Wendy's gone back a stage to show you that. So if you've got a teasel or any seed head you can do this with, you pop it in with your bundles. It's much easier because we haven't wired those, so you can't really stick them in. So you can see Wendy wrapping that string, that twine round the teasel, and then she'll put a piece of foliage on top, so you won't see any of that. That looks quite nice. Now you can see there Wendy's got a cone and a teasel. Groupings are particularly nice when you're doing your decorating, kind of groupings of things. So what I would suggest is you get your wreath, you put your, oh well, I just turned off. You oh yeah, look there. Wendy's covered that with a bundle there. Brilliant. So you can't see any of the mechanics underneath, and the cone looks like it's just always been there in its natural habitat. So when you've got your bow on, you've got oranges, you've got cinnamon, you've got cones. You might just want to place them onto the top of your wreath and think about how you want them to look. So you can put them in groupings. You could put one item of each per group, or you can place them evenly around your wreath. The only thing we would probably try and avoid, so that's a nice little grouping of cones. What you just want to avoid is putting things kind of making a square. You don't want to make a square by putting two things opposite each other. They can be diagonally opposite, but not opposite adjacent, if that's the right word. So just kind of arrange it on top really to start with, and check that it's all nicely spaced. You might find there's natural dips where you want to nestle things into. At this stage you could go and look for berries as well, or crab apples. You can introduce, I mean, somebody had rose hips in one of our virtual workshops last week. So really it's up to you what extra decoration you put on, but Wendy spread them all out individually in a kind of pattern, which is great. So at this stage, again, if you've got a mossed ring on copper, you can just pop these straight through the mossed ring, straight through vertically, and then you push your wire back through the ring. You're not having to twist it or anything. Wendy will show you that. So it's coming out the back like that. You have to do a bit of nestling and tweaking so it sits correctly. And then the oranges might feel a bit soft. We've been drying them for hours and hours, but as soon as you reintroduce them to the outside world, they do take on a bit of moisture again, but they should be fine for the Christmas period. Obviously, with any of these decorations at the end, you can keep them all for next year. We encourage reuse and recycling. Again, there's your cinnamon going through. And it's as simple as that. It's not quite as simple on your willow base. You will have to find a way to wrap that wire round the base rather than through. I mean, some of you might find that you have got a few gaps in your willow, but it was quite tightly woven. We made the willow bases ourselves, so we do know that they were quite a tight base. The main thing is it secure? Is it going to fall off in a gust of wind? That's all you need to do, is make sure it's securely fixed onto your wreath. There you go. And that's almost there, really. So we should talk a bit about aftercare of your wreath. Obviously, these are better. They last longer on an outside door, but preferably out of gusty winds. It's wind actually that dries out a wreath more than anything. So if it's on an inside door, an interior door, you might want to give the foliage a bit of a spray now and then to keep it moist, or you can actually take it off and just soak your wreath ring in kind of a tray of water to re-wet it. That can make it last longer. But other than that, if we have a normal, well, there aren't many normal winters anymore, but if we have normal winter weather, they should last a good month. At the end, after you finish with your wreath, as I said, almost everything here is recyclable or reusable or compostable. So that's why we use twine as well. So you could actually keep some of the materials for next year. You could dry back your oranges, your cones and your cinnamon will be fine. Your bow you can keep. So at the risk of doing ourselves out of a kit next year, you can actually make this again next year. So I hope that is clear, and I hope that I didn't confuse you with talking about two slightly different methods in one video. Please do message us if you need any more information, and enjoy making your wreath. And happy Christmas from the Organic Blooms team. We hope to see you next year. Take care. Bye.